All right, welcome to the Bend It Fishing channel, folks. A lot of people have been asking me what are my settings for Livescope and what is my Livescope setup. So I've done a video this spring about it, and then I've changed some things. My settings haven't changed, but I've changed some things. So I'm recording the screen right now. I'm gonna show you what my screen looks like when I'm not messing with it. Right now it's on, the depth is on auto, which is on that far right there. You guys can see that number go up and down there. And I usually have my distance set to about 70 to 100 feet. And that's so I can gain a scale of the fish that I'm looking at. Right now we're looking for lake trout. We're trying to go down deep. And those lines you see that are kind of like crisscross in the screen right there, that's called ghost tree. Now I can completely get rid of that if I want to, but currently I don't want to. Right there is a lake trout, so we're gonna see if I can get on top of his head. It's been a grind of a day today. I've caught a couple, and one of them decided to bleed all over me. So right now he's right in my ghost tree. So we're gonna keep going. And so I'll go over the settings, but right now you can see that camera, hopefully you can see this. This is the Summit shuttle. This is their CNC plastic shuttle. I'm running and I'll leave the link for all of this stuff down below. Summit shuttle. Amped outdoors, 32 amp hour, 14 volt battery that's inside there. And then I'm running a Livescope Plus transducer, which is the key thing, which is what most people want to do. That's between the transducer and that, it's pretty expensive. And then I'm running a Sniper Marine pole from Sniper Marine. Now this is the best pole that I've used so far. It works really well. It has some flaws. They just came out with a new one that fixes some of those flaws. It still like kicks out and wants to spin and stuff. And then for a screen, I'm running a GPS map. Now you don't need to run a GPS map. I'm running a GPS map so I can record the screen to my phone so you guys can see this when I'm me putting around right here. Otherwise you can't do that unless you go up to the new Ultra 2s, which now have screen recording, which I might switch over to that. So this head unit is a GPS map 923XSV, and I'll leave the link for that below. You can buy this and the Livescope setup on Amazon, but the shuttle you need to buy from Summit Fishing. And I'm not sponsored by any of this stuff, mind you. It's all out of my own pocket, paid for by you guys watching my YouTube videos, which is great. And then I'm running the Fishing Specialties mount on the side. Now this is the sturdiest I found. I can go up to 6-7 miles an hour, like literally scanning for fish, which is what I'm doing right now. So I'm gonna go through my settings real quick now. Between a GPS map and an Echo map, they're a little bit different from what I remember. I have an Echo map that goes here. It's the 7-inch or the 9-inch, which is what I started with. And how I explained it to people for Livescope, Echo map is like SD or standard definition. GPS map is HD or high definition, and then the 8000 series is now 4K. And then they just came out with the 9000 series, and I don't know, it was like an 8K or something like that, silly, like 6K. It's a lot of pixels, and the more pixels, the better, really, because then you can really see more. You can, you know, the definition's a little bit better, the screens are a little bit faster. And I run my screens a little bit differently than everybody else does. I run mine a little bit dirty. That's why you guys are seeing those ghost trees. Now I can get rid of that, but what that does is it slows down the unit to where I'm jigging. I want the livest information possible. So I'm gonna try to get on some fish in some deeper water here. Most of the time I'm fishing in 30 feet to 120 feet with this transducer. If I start going down deeper, I do have Livescope XR that I will use. I only use it, I started using it earlier today just because I wanted to shoot further away and not spook a bunch of fish. But I'll go into settings here in a minute. And all that little fuzz balls you're seeing up top there, like 30 feet and above, that's pin smelt, that's baby bait, baby smelt that are up there swimming along here. So let's go into, let's drop down. Actually, let's show you this real quick. So the biggest thing about settings is how big of a bait are you going to throw. So right now we're throwing and the top profile matters and the length matters. Because the wider the bait is, the harder the return is going to be. So we're going to drop that down right basically below the transducer. Let's go into settings. So options, sonar setup, appearance, and I like the color scheme is blue. And it's got the best, I feel like it's got the best contrast out when you're out in the water, and I use it nighttime, I use it during the day. It's just, I don't have to change colors. It makes that little red, like if anything's moving, it's bright red. So that makes it really easy. Color gain, I got cranked up to about 96, and you can turn that up a little bit higher if you want. But 96, 97 I like. Go back to sonar setup. Layout, scroll history we don't want, grid overlay we don't want. Unless you just started getting into Livescope, I suggest putting on the grid. It'll help you gauge your distance when you're casting and figuring out where fish are. Options, sonar setup, and then we have all of our pretty stuff turned off. And I call it pretty stuff because all it does is it gets rid of noise and it gets rid of ghostry, which is the ghostry is just the transducer hitting bottom and bouncing back on itself, and it creates kind of a weird funky scene on the screen. That's all that does. So noise rejection is off, ghostry is off, and TVG is off, time varying gain, and that's that top part. So I can turn it on high and see how it just clears everything up, but now my jig is almost gone, right? So if anything shows up in that top part of the water column, for instance today, I've had a annoying amount of rainbow trout up high, and I'll reel up to them and they'll just smoke the jig a bunch of times, and their mouths are too small to actually inhale the jig. So I've been missing a bunch of them today. So all that stuff's turned off. Installation I have set to stabilize is on, so that's when the boat is rocking. This kind of like counteracts that boat rocking, so it's not, you don't get as seasick watching the screen. Orientation's on auto. Right now I'm in forward mode. And if you guys are wondering what forward mode looks like, get on the other side of my pole here. This is forward mode when it's actually kicked up like that. And there's actually notches. You guys can see that on the GoPro. That's down mode, that's forward mode. So that wire is back and it's shooting forward. Luckily no fish showed up. And so I will have the orientation on auto because sometimes when I'm fishing real deep or when I'm fishing with two people on either side of the boat, I'll put it in down mode so we're shooting out either side. Focus I have set on auto, so you can adjust that. That will adjust your beams and kind of make stuff all funky. I have by accident set it on, I was in salt and then I didn't change it back and I was having a really hard time seeing stuff. So make sure those settings are back. You can always hit factory reset or restore sonar defaults, which I'm not going to do because I'm going to mess with all my settings. I'm going to go back, TVG, insulation, layout, appearance. Color limit we have set for 28. And see how if we crank that all the way up, things start to disappear, right? Most of the time I run that at 0. I'm not actually sure why that's at 28, but that is the contrast shade in the screen. So we want to make sure that that's set to 0. That's where I like mine. But that being said, if you're up shallow, jigging for crappie and stuff, crappie all the time, someone just corrected me there from you southern folks. If you're up shallow, your settings will vary. Will vary. This is a crystal clear lake. It is clear for about 20 feet. I have like almost a 20-foot leader on right now just because the lake is so clear. So you can adjust those things, bottom fills off, trails off. And if you want a unit that's a little bit more user-friendly, buy Lowance. So Lowance is more like the iPhone and Garmin's more like the Android of the Livescope FFS, forward-facing sonar, world. It's just this, there's so many settings in here that you can mess with to trigger it, to do different things. And I have all of that stuff turned off. So if you guys want to watch, here, let me bump in here. So there's all my settings. When I know I'm in a good spot, I can bump stuff out like that, right? And that just kind of like zooms in a little bit. And look how live that stuff, it's pretty much 1-to-1 ratio. There's no delay, there's no lag. If I was to turn on TVG or turn on noise rejection, there will be a lag. And that's fine if you're just casting the smallies and stuff like that, where you're expecting a bite, or they're just gonna inhale the bite. Lakers are not like that. They will short strike, they will turn around, they whiz back around. They are just super finicky. So I have all that stuff turned off. So I actually have a ledge in front of me, and I have my gains turned to 71, and I adjust that throughout the day depending on what I'm looking at the screen. So right now we're at 70 feet. If I don't adjust anything, let me show you what happens. I'm gonna go up shallow, and it's gonna start freaking out here. I'm gonna bump it out to 100, hopefully look for some fish. Now, when clients are looking at the screen, most people think the ghost tree is fish. It's not, it's just the sonar bouncing back on itself. If I had this sonar plugged in, which is normal, traditional sonar, there would be flashes on this screen. That's just interference. And there's no way to really get away from that, except for I have mine on opposite sides of the boat, which helps. So see how the ghost tree is getting stronger and stronger and stronger? When I get up shallow, I'm gonna have to dial back my gain that's on my screen to get rid of that, because fish can actually hide right in that. So we have smelt, we have bait fish all around the top of that. And then we should see some smallies here in a minute. They've been all up on top of the rocks today. They're not very big though. They're small smallies. So now we're up super shallow in like 8 feet, which you probably should be using perspective mode, which I do not have on this boat. I don't have a mount for it at all. I used to when I had a Summit fishing setup. It did have that ability to do that, but I never go up shallow. If I do, I'm usually pinpoint casting to a fish, and it's really hard to read. So we are just cruising right along here. Now we're gonna go back down deep, so that ghost tree will kind of blow itself out and not be in the way so much. So I can dial back and make that go away, or I can turn on noise rejection and it'll also go away. Bunch of bait fish up top between 0 and 15 right now. That's really my Livescope settings. I keep it really simple. I turn off all of the extra stuff, especially if you have an echo map where it's even slower than these units. The lag is even worse, and you'll, especially if you're vertical jigging, you will miss bites. Or it actually might help you depending on how seasoned or not seasoned you are. Coming up on a big rock right here. So if you guys want to buy Livescope, you want to buy the head unit, and you want to buy the actual cable, which you can do is buy it right from Amazon. I will leave links down there in the description below. If you buy it through Amazon, I get a little piece of that money, and I have to tell you that legally. It does not cost you any more. Amazon foots the bill for that, which is really nice. So check those out, buy those, and make sure you do not hook your Livescope up to your starting motor battery. It will kill it in a matter of hours. These things are complete energy hogs, and you don't want to be paddling back to shore like one guy I know who recently did that. Yeah, so get a lithium battery or get a separate battery for your Livescope, and make sure that you keep the battery away from your trolling motor and away from your gas motor. The electrical noise between those two things will ruin your image on the screen. It won't ruin your unit, but it'll ruin the image on your screen. If you're really worried, have a professional install it. So if you want to buy those things, get into Livescope. Yes, it is, it's basically spotlighting, but it's super fun. And if you want to learn more about lake trout stuff or any of the other videos, I have crappy videos with Livescope too. Click here or here, and that'll bring you to one of those next videos, and I'll see you there.